Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money. Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
It's a beautiful afternoon from the beautiful city of Abuja, from a beautiful Leadership TV studio. It is my pleasure to say welcome to today's edition of Money Radio. And today being Thursday, this is the energy focus segment of the program. We are discussing a topic today that is, I would say, annoying to say the least. Annoying. The topic says, issues after national grid shutdown by power sector workers. In the studio to discuss that with me is Mr. Anthony Uko. Mr. Your face brings back some excitement in me because to think about this topic is actually not exciting, it's annoying. Yes. But we'll get to that. Yeah. He's our energy expert, in-house energy expert. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
I need not even introduce you because our listeners or our viewers know you. You're welcome. And I'm your host, Case Hammond. So, issues after national grid shutdown by power sector workers. Let's talk about these issues, really. Somehow, to start with, you are going to take the floor, but to start with, I see that people in the power sector, not only in the power sector, but all around the country right now, I don't know if they sense any form of weakness in government that people just take action that I could even say it's unpardonable. Because that effrontery, that boldness, that audacity to just shut an entire country out of power because of reasons such as the government requesting that people, that's just one of the reasons. Of course, the issue of pay is there. That is less offense, or if it's even an offense, it's something that can be negotiated.
Yes.
But government requesting that for people to be promoted at certain level, they have to be interviewed by the government.
Yes.
You use that as some kind of blackmail and just shut Nigerians out of power. That is unpardonable. And maybe they see this thing as some kind of the body language of the government that nothing will happen. What do you think?
For me, I consider this, in fact, it's appalling.
It is.
It's appalling that for whatever reason, they are union members, of course, and it's their right to protest
For pay.
Or for not being treated
Yes.
fairly, or for agreements that they have reached with their employers, not when it's not being upheld.
Yes.
It's their right. Nobody has taken this from them. It's their right to protest. But going to the extent of shutting down that's an entire national
to
grid
zero.
Switch it off, and they're proud of themselves.
Oh yes,
to me, I consider it sabotage.
That's sabotage. That's economic. Do you know how many industries were actually out of power yesterday, and such things are affected? Not just our industries. Imagine hospitals.
Imagine
Airports. Security.
You know,
I don't know.
we understand that the power situation in the country is bad. But there are still many essential services that depend on
this
limited the power from the national grid. Okay. The airport is one of them.
Yes.
And then some other,
hospitals.
The hospitals, if maybe not the private one, but there are other health facilities and essential duty points.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. Some people died yesterday.
Yes.
Operations should have been done on some people. They died yesterday as a result of
that.
And this is actually an action that I would say is irresponsible. It's grossly irresponsible. Just because of a few issues, you just go and shut an entire country. I haven't heard about such thing anywhere. And actually, people are going to be more emboldened to do things like this. If nothing happens to them.
Like you've pointed out, and maybe it's the body language. They have kind of sensed a weakness in
something
the government. Like that. And everyone in the system just feels that there's so much impunity within the system at all levels that everybody feels that they can do anything and get away with it. And it's a very bad situation. Let me give you an instance that also happened yesterday in my locality. There are security personnel that are engaged by the community.
Yes.
And then payments ought to be made to them. And for one reason or the other, there was some form of miscommunication. And that payment for some compounds, homes, have not been done. Do you know these people, the community leaders, with such audacity, such effrontery, went round and disconnected power from these homes? And I'm like, what gives you this the right that you are the community, the leaders of the community? The power infrastructure does not belong to you. It
doesn't belong to you.
It belongs to government, and it also belongs to the companies, the distribution company that is responsible for your area. But for them to be so bold that they will climb the poles and then disconnect people, and they are not AEDC officials or power sector workers officials. I'm like, and I now brought it back to what has happened on a grand scale nationwide. Yes. I'm like you rightly pointed out, there is a body language that has been projected that is very, very negative.
Yes, it's a bad precedent, right? Really. Just to comment on that instance you mentioned, if I were in that estate and disconnected, like you just mentioned, I would make sure I destroy something in my home, some electrical appliance or something. I'll spoil and then take those people to court. If they can't get the body language from the government, then let the legal system. That's illegal, grossly illegal. I will personally spoil something in my home and then go.
So that is what we saw. Let's take a look at some of the demands that those people have put up.
Yes.
That made them. There is they said the directive from the transmission company of Nigeria, the board, the principal managers in acting capacity going to general manager or acting general managers should appear for a promotion interview. Is that a big deal?
No, but I want to ask you a question. If I'm your employer and I'm saying to be promoted, you have to undergo an interview or you have to face an interview. What is wrong about that? Is it not setting standards straight? As a matter of fact, that should be an opportunity for you to prove yourself that you are qualified for this so-and-so position or that position. If you are not qualified, then that's when you begin to make trouble like that. So that's the government's own prerogative to say we are setting so and so standard, and you are supposed to be proud to prove yourself and sit for such interview. If that is not, that means they are incompetent.
Yeah. Another one, they said, okay, they said the directive was in contravention of workers' conditions of service and career progression paths, and alleged that it was unilaterally done without the relevant stakeholders. Okay, that's for that. Then other issues they raised included stigmatization of staff from the office of the head of service of the Federation from working in other areas in the power sector. And then thirdly, non-payment of their December 2019 entitlements to ex-PHCN staff.
Are these not industry issues that should be discussed at that industry level? Funny enough, these are the same people who will point their fingers when other industry workers are going on strike. They point fingers and begin to deride them as if as if those people are Satan. Take for example, those same people you're talking about, when the lecturers go on strike, they will put their mouth there and say it's not supposed to be that way. The lecturers should go back to home. When the doctors go on strike, those essential services, they'll say, no, this is an essential service. What about that service that is contributing to such essential services? Electricity. You know what it means for a whole country not to have electricity, to have zero production of power for hours. That is horrible, to say the least. It's horrible. And if nothing is done to make sure that these people are brought to book, if nothing is done to make an example of these people, it will actually continue. Next thing we'll begin to see essential services such as the police will say we are going on strike, and criminals will just go all haywire. And of course, when the military decides to go on strike too, let me not go that area because you can imagine how it is. But gradually, we are regressing to that level where the level of impunity is just too much. And these people have demonstrated that they don't care. We want to take a short break. As we are coming back, we want to show video of how this thing was not an accident, but it was deliberate. Put the country into darkness deliberately. Stay tuned, listeners.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back, viewers. We're still on to the issues in the power sector, and we are discussing what happened yesterday when the power sector, the national grid, was shut down completely to 0 megawatts, and it was deliberate. Before we discuss further, I want to show you a video on how deliberate this thing or how emboldened these workers became to shut the country down. And we'll talk about the implications, and then we'll look at the other side of the balance. Take a look.
I see.
So yeah, about to go. Because you know today is a midday. Shutting down most of Abuja no light now. Many places.
So as we shut down here now, the whole of Abuja, Akwanga.
This place will still be in service because
Most of
the lights are still in
all out,
service.
so we can come as studio now. We are watching. If you can come to the TCN in Delta.
So where is the station service coming from?
That's what I'm wondering.
Station service.
South now.
Okay.
It's
Soweto! Africa! It's Soweto! Africa! It's Soweto! Forever! Forever!
Welcome back, viewers. You saw there how those electricity workers deliberately turned off the power because of these issues we have just discussed. If nothing is done, people will actually get, should I say negative or positive signal? It will be positive signal to do more. To push the government more. People want to see how much the government can take before they react, before they take.
You know my concern here. The power sector has had a very rough time.
Yes.
There's so much that the sector has had to grapple with. For a long time, there has been, the need for the country to increase the power that is being generated. And recently, the government went into signing an agreement, a sector-wide agreement with the generating companies, the distribution companies, and then with the TCN, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, for quality service delivery.
Yeah.
That all of these sectors, all of these different players must uphold their own end.
Which started on July 1st.
Yes,
remember?
which started on July 1st. And after this, we have seen concerted efforts for the players to improve.
Yes.
Because having signed those agreements, it means that someone will be held liable for something that goes wrong.
Yes.
And right now, and following that agreement, the power generation got steady. In fact, on the 16th,
yes,
which is just 2 days ago,
yeah,
a peak performance of 4,800 megawatts
was reached.
And so the system had been operating consistently above 4,000. And it was inching with that. It was actually inching towards the 5,000 mark.
Only for
irresponsible
souls.
Only for them to switch it off. And even though they said the meeting lasted between the conciliatory meeting was between 4 and 7 o'clock, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then the strike was suspended. But as at 12 yesterday or this morning, the grid was still down.
Of course, it takes time before this
It
thing
takes
comes back.
time. So it means that from 301 that they actually switched off the grid up to 12 o'clock, that's like 9 hours
Yes.
and more. As at 1 o'clock, when I checked the grid performance, it wasn't up to 200 megawatts.
It takes
And
time for these things to.
All the progress that
Yes,
have been made
was just dampened
was
right
just
there.
dampened right there, and they have to start all over again to build up.
Which may take more than a week to reach that peak again.
It may take up to. Analysts are saying it may take up to a month to get to that level of stability again. And now, okay, we're talking of implications. Agreements have been signed. Generation companies, they've engaged their gas suppliers, they've put their systems in order, their infrastructure to generate. And they actually generated. But they weren't able to transmit.
Yeah.
Who bears that
burden?
Who bears that cost? Who bears that cost? It still goes back on government.
It goes back to the government.
Because now TCN here, by that agreement, is liable.
Of course.
TCN did not transmit.
Mm-hmm.
They generated.
It
was not transmitted.
That is the government.
That is the government. More burden, more financial burden.
Yes.
On the government. And then let's talk about the economic aspect of things.
We'll come back to that, please.
Okay.
But since we are talking about government, should government have allowed this issue to degenerate to the level it degenerated to yesterday? Couldn't something have been done to come to some compromise with these people before the thing degenerated?
The general lack of concern, government's lack of concern with the well-being of Nigerians is getting more and more apparent. You see a situation where the medical doctors went on strike, and they actually, how long was it? How long was that strike that the medical doctors?
Probably up to a month.
Yeah, I think it was more than a month.
Yeah.
And the government allowed them. Government allowed a very essential service.
And people died.
Some of this, so they have precedents.
Yeah.
They have seen that happen, and then government doing nothing about it. So they have seen that for them to drive home their demands, they have to actually get brutal.
Somehow.
They have to actually get brutal. And that is what they did here. And this is the 7th month, right?
Exactly.
That ASU
has been on strike.
Nothing has been done. And nothing has been done. So students, youths.
We're talking about 200 billion here.
Yes.
And nothing has been done.
They've been at home. And
so before we close, let's go to the economic implications of all of this. We're talking about local implication, and then we're talking about the message, the body language, the economic body language we are displaying to potential foreign investors. It's dire.
It's really dire. Let me read a commentary from an industry player, Dr. Muda Yusuf.
Okay.
He sent this in as in response. He said, here he's talking about manufacturers because of the hike in diesel prices.
Yes.
He said many of them, because of the situation with diesels, rely heavily on public power supply. And with this strike, it's going to impose a very heavy burden on businesses because the alternative is equally extremely expensive. The cost of diesel is the cost of diesel is so high that the impact will be high on operating cost, production cost, and will have effect on the prices of goods and services.
That is clear.
And that is clear.
So when these
The
same people,
inflationary pressure
yes,
is already high.
it's going to in fact it's going to increase, because
Yes.
these people, before we get back to that level of 4,800 megawatts, it's going to take probably up to a month. They are going to have to manufacture the biscuits that we are buying for our children to go to school, the bread. Just think about what manufacturing is
Everything
all
that
about.
is
Is going to go higher because the cost of production is going to go higher. Those same people yesterday who were so emboldened to shut the country down will be the same people to be complaining that everything in the market now is expensive. I went to buy pot yesterday, it's expensive. But these are the things that actually are contributing to the high cost of.
they can just say, I think it's I don't know whether I should call it is a lack of appreciation of their importance.
Yeah.
Because they can say, oh, it was just for a few hours.
Yeah.
But the rippling effect
yes.
of this action,
Yeah,
it transcends just that. Even up till now, the power is
it's still not.
still
I'm
not
telling you,
up.
I live in a part of the country where we enjoy power. That I did not have power all through yesterday and into this morning when I left home means there is only a little available to the entire nation. I can assure you that it's not just. It's going to take time. A lot of these things will actually have a rippling effect. When people go to the hospital and they don't see light because the light has not been generated or power has not been generated yet to supply those ones, then people will complain. But these are some of the rippling effects. So these things are actually going to is going to have negative impact on the economy, at least in the near future. And so for people to be that, and I don't know what other word to use, but I would say irresponsible.
But government has to,
The government too has to take responsibility also for all of this. They could have averted
yes,
it.
they could have averted
Yes,
it.
yes. And
Because negotiation, there were
they
rules.
negotiated.
There were
finally.
rules for meeting,
Yes.
and the minister of power
Mhm.
didn't even step in. He relegated it to the minister of state
Imagine that.
until the meeting that was scheduled after the grid was switched off.
Sir, I can't say anything again. I want to thank you for coming to the studio today to discuss this issue. I want to say thank you to our producers. But thank you mostly to those of you who follow us on this program loyally. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we say thanks very much for following us. I've been your host, Case Hammond, and we are drawing a curtain on today's edition of Money Radio. We'll be back tomorrow with a fresh edition, that is the transportation segment of the program. Until then, have a great day. God bless you.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.